Hey, what's up guys? I want to go ahead and talk a little bit about High Concept 1. This is a mechanic from P8S P2 Phase 2, and I think it's the hardest mechanic in the whole fight. If you can get through this, honestly, the rest is not even that bad. So I guess what I want to do is actually go ahead and start with some of the concepts of this mechanic. We're going to be using Rinon's guide because I think it's one of the best, even though it's like one of the weak 1 strats, but we will be changing certain things. I'll show you guys how my static does it. I'm not sure how PF does it, so this is a little bit of a disclaimer, but in my personal opinion, I think the way that we do it is the best, simply because there is no communication required and very little flexing that's required because a lot of your positions are kind of static based off of what debuff you have, and I'll tell you what I mean. I'll show you what I mean in the video. So yeah, also this is a re-upload. I wasn't sure if I wanted to re-upload this because Junebob did come out with a pretty good video recently, but some people apparently like the whole in-depth guide thing, so I guess we can just go ahead and try it out and see if you guys like it. Okay, so without further ado, let's get straight into it. So first I want to talk about the concepts, and then I'll show you guys a little some POVs to show you how the debuffs are executed. So there are 4 categories of debuffs, as you can see. There is a splice, a yellow splice, a blue splice, 3 short debuffs, and 3 long debuffs. Okay, so what the heck do these things do? Well, the splices are stacks. The yellow splice is a 2 stack, as you can see there's 2 people there, and the blue splice is a 3 stack. The icon has 3 people on it, so it's really easy. And for the short debuffs, you can get either an alpha, beta, or gamma. It'll start at 8 seconds. Or you could get a long alpha, beta, or gamma, which starts at 28 seconds. So what do you do when you get one of these? Well, it's super easy. You can just look at the diagram above here, but just to make it simpler for everyone, the short debuffs, short alpha, beta, gamma, they're going to go to their respective corners. Then they're just going to anchor there because these are basically just spreads. Not in the traditional sense, but they are kind of just spread. So just spread out in the corner. If you get short alpha, beta, gamma, short alpha goes to the top corner here, short beta goes to this corner, and short gamma will go to this corner right here. That's it. So now we'll talk about the stacks. So the 2 stack is a yellow. So as you can see, the icon is like a yellow stack marker. You are going to go to this yellow marker at the top. Let me see if I can actually zoom this in so it's a little better. Yeah, so the yellow splice goes to the yellow marker here, and the blue splice goes to the blue marker here. They are color coded, fortunately, thanks Yoshi P. See blue icon, blue 3 marker, yellow 2, yellow splice, easy, easy, easy. So because they are stacks, you're gonna need people to stack with you. So who's gonna stack with you? It's gonna be the I was gonna say schlong, the long debuffs. So long alpha is going to stack with 2, and the other 2, long beta and long gamma, are going to stack on the 3, and that's literally it. So that makes sense, right? So those are your initial positions. After that, the mechanic ends up resolving itself, and then you have to do other things afterwards. And before we get there, I want to go ahead and show you guys what this actually looks like. So I have a really good POV from our Prog. This is my tank's POV. You can see clearly right here he gets a short beta, so he's going straight to the B marker in the corner, and he's just going to anchor there. And it's awesome that he looks back so we can actually see what everyone else is doing, but you're obviously not going to do this. When you're doing High Concept 1, please just make sure you're paying attention to your debuffs and your individual stuff. You don't really have to worry about anybody else. I'm just showing you guys the concept so you understand what to do, because I lack a lot of POVs. Anyway, okay, so he has short beta, he goes to the B marker. If you had short alpha, you'd go here, that's short beta, and this would be short gamma. There's no gamma marker, so we just use C. I know some people are starting to use 4 because it looks like a G, but for our POV, we use C here, A, B, C. Okay, so those are the short alpha, beta, gammas, and now we're going to talk about these splice stacks over here. So the 2 splice stack, you can see the debuffs in this list right here. This is the yellow debuff. They come over here with the short alpha long alpha. Wow. Long alpha comes in stacks on 2, and then everyone else, so the blue splice is going to come over here, as well as the other 2 long debuffs, which is the long beta and the long gamma. I'm not sure which one it was, but I mean, they're over here. Um, but yeah, so you can see pretty much everyone at a glance. Short alpha beta gammas, long alpha beta gammas, plus the two splices in their respective spots. So let's see what happens. Boom, everything goes off. See, that's why we had to spread to the corner, because this purple AoE spawns. And that's it for the initial spots. Now, before we continue, I want to go ahead and look at another POV. I believe I have one here with a short gamma. So I got short gamma, and I'm coming to the C marker here, and I just kind of stack there, and that's really it. It's super, super easy, super brain dead. I might also have a splice, I believe. So let's see. Okay, so I have a yellow splice, so I'm gonna go to 2. As you can see, my debuff is right here. I'm gonna go back for a second. So high concept is being casted. Make sure you have shields and heals. You want to make sure people are shielded and healed, because people could easily die to damage. Also, on that note, because people can die to damage so easily, make sure after these mechanics resolve, come back to the center. Even if you don't think you have to, just come close to the center so that you can get shielded and healed as necessary. So, alright, wow, I just made an MTQ reference. Okay, here we have a yellow splice. I'm just going to stack there. I have my partner who just shows up right there. Boom, that happens, and you can see the blue splices are also there too. More POVs, right? So on the right side of us, oh, this wing is in the way. Okay, right here, we can see everyone is stacked together on the 3. We have a 1 marker here, but this is for high concept 2. It's a different mechanic later on, so don't worry about it too much. As long as you're like away from, you know, the 2 stack, you're fine. And that's pretty much it for the initial positions. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. So now we can go ahead and continue and talk about what you do after you, after this initial, like, I guess, debuffs go off. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to Sexy Gamer's view here, because I think it's the best. And so after the debuffs resolve, so let's watch this in real time. Debuffs end up resolving, and now you can see that people get elements on their heads. And now this can confuse people, because I know there's a lot of things going on, but seriously, it's so simple. It's just a priority system. Okay, so this is how you're going to think about it. The people who are mixing have to worry about these 2 towers that spawn. The element that the towers can be is completely random, but where they can be is exactly the same every single time. They're either going to be 1 north and 1 south. Okay, so in this poll, the towers are purple. They are a electrical purple element. So what's going to happen is these 3 people have to see if they have the right corresponding element to the towers. So in this scenario, if you're looking, you can see that these 2 people have a set of 3 elements, and they have the purple element here. See, Spicy has the purple element and Sexy has the purple element. However, our Dragoon, Jorzo, he does not have a purple element, so he doesn't have to worry about this tower stuff right now, okay? He can just basically chill. I'll tell you exactly what he does later, but like right now, let's focus on the 2 elemental people who are going to come here because they have to soak these towers. Okay, so this is what they do. All right. So once again, because they both have purple elements, you can completely ignore the other elements, by the way. We only care about the element that corresponds with these 2 towers. And this is going to be a concept you're going to use for later mechanics, later parts of the mechanic too. Okay, purples go middle. They're going to mix in the middle, right? And once they mix, there's going to be a little icon that spawns over their head that basically tells them that you've finished mixing. And then you're going to take the towers north and south and soak them each. So one person will take south, one person will take north. Now, how do you know who's going to do what? Well, I'll show you. There's a really nice prio system that our group ended up doing. So as you can see, they get close to each other. You have to get close as proximity based. And you can see a little tether that forms right next to them, right? You see that? So that you can see is how they're actually mixing. And once the mixing process is done, then your icons above your heads will transform to the correct corresponding element automatically. It's just that easy. So once that happens, you are going to take your towers north and south, as you can see here. And you have a timer. You can see this pink little bubbles that are spawning across the tower. That shows you your time limit. Once you have 10 bubbles all across, that's when the mechanic will snapshot. And at the same time, there's also a half map cleave that comes from his arm, so you can just kind of look up and see where it's coming from. So in this case, his left, well, I guess his right arm is technically glowing, but he's going to cleave the left side of this room. it's just a half map cleave. It's really easy. So when Sexy goes to take his tower, he's going to stand slightly on the right side, like so, and that's pretty much it. You can also look at the little enmity bar here to see the cast bar for Ashing Blaze, and that's actually the snapshot, which is honestly pretty early. You can walk into the animation pretty early on and get to your corner, so it's pretty cool. Okay, now one last thing. Prio system that I was talking about earlier. While you're mixing, you should be cheating. When I say cheat, I just mean like nudging yourself. You should be slightly cheating north or south. So in this case, you can see Sexy is slightly more north and Spicy is slightly more south. This dictates which tower you are going to take. So Sexy is going to take the north one because he kind of planted himself there and he's north of Spicy, and Spicy planted himself south, so he's going to go south and take that tower, and that's pretty much it. This is a very important concept that we're going to use for later parts of the mechanic too, so make sure you remember that. It's really good for PF as well, in my opinion, because you don't need any comms, you don't need to call out anything, there's no confusion, because you just kind of anchor there. Okay, so now that that's done, the people who mixed and took those 2 towers are going to come to this corner between the markers 2 and 3, so they can come to this like little square here, and they can just chill. You are now done with the whole mechanic, check mark, right? Aside from just dodging cleaves and stuff, you guys aren't doing anything else. Okay, so now you might be wondering, all right, well, the 2 people who mixed are going in the center, they're going to do their things, take towers, but what happens to the guy who doesn't mix at all? Well, like I said, don't simply stay in your corner. You want to go in for at least some heals. Make sure you don't go near these 2 people though if you're not mixing, because you might accidentally mix with them because it is proximity based. Okay, so person who didn't mix, in this case he came from A, but he could have came from any marker, it's completely random. So what he's going to do is after he goes in for heals and shields, he's going to dodge that half map cleave. It could be either on the right side or the left side, in this case it was the left. So he's going to dodge that cleave, and then after he dodges the cleave, he's going to go straight back to his marker, initial marker. So in this case it was A, he's going to go back there. Now this is important. The unmixed person is important because their positioning dictates where the people who were splices earlier are going to go. So it's kind of important for the people who are splices to look at the person who's not mixing, and I'll tell you all this stuff in a sec. So let's go ahead and look at this really quick so you can see him actually do it. So Jorzo, our Dragoon, he dodges the half map cleave. He's already shielded and healed, so he's good. He can just go back to his A marker and he's done for now. Okay, now let's talk about these positions. I believe I have some VODs for that too, but I want to go ahead and talk about, or we'll look into the diagram before we get into that. Okay, so the next part is the long alpha, beta, gammas, as well as the splices. So I guess we can talk about the long alpha beta gammas first because they're super easy. The long alpha beta gammas are about to run out, they're about to explode, so all they have to do is simply go to their respective marker, right? So the long beta would go to the beta area and long gamma would go to their corner here. It's really that simple. It's exactly the same thing as what short debuffs did. However, you're just doing it a little bit later because, you know, it's a longer timer. Okay, so that's it for them, and now we have the 2 stack markers. That's the 2 partner stack and the 3 stack. So they already stacked. What I'm trying to tell you to do is what happens afterwards. So the blue stack is gonna go prioritize either C or B, right? They have to go there and just plant themselves, but we have to know the prio system, and I'll tell you that in a second. But the yellow stack is gonna prio either A or B. Okay, so now that we know where they're supposed to go, we need to know what the prio is based off of what is safe. Okay, so this is what I'm going to tell you. Remember that person who didn't mix? Remember there was 2 people in the previous POV, in Sexy's POV, we saw that C and B ended up mixing and they took the towers. There was one person from A. That person did not have the corresponding element, so he did not mix. That means that this is unsafe. So the splice people cannot go to A anymore. So what does that mean? To make this super simple, all you have to do is look. So if yellow splice, sorry, if the non-mixing person goes to A, that means A is unsafe, so the yellow splice goes to B. Okay, So I guess the binary way of thinking about it is always look at A. I'm talking only about the yellow splice, by the way. Always look at A. If the unmixed person goes back to A, it's not safe, so you go to B. Does that make sense? You skip A, you just go straight to B, if anything. Okay, if he goes back there. Now, if the unmixed person goes to B, well, who cares? This is your default. You're always going to A unless A is unsafe, then you go to B. And it's basically mirrored for this side as well. So for the blue splice, you look at C. If the person who's not mixing goes to C, that means it's not safe for you. So you're going to have to come over here to B. And that's all you have to do. You're only looking at C or B if you're blue, and you're only looking at A or B if you are yellow. So it just depends on where the non-mixing person goes, and I believe I have a POV for this too. So let's go ahead and look at that. I can look at my previous video. So here I am. I'm actually blue splice in this POV. So we're just kind of doing stuff. I'm explaining it in the video. But so as you can see, so here I'm explaining how this person here and the person in the corner and this person in the corner are important. So you have to kind of look at them. See, since I'm a blue splice, I have to look at these people. And so I can see that this person has a blue and this person has a blue. So they are going to go mix, but they're not the people I want to pay attention to. I want to pay attention to the person who's not going to mix, who's in this corner right here. So as you can see in the POV, I'll actually show you. And so as you can see, that person in the back who's not mixing is the one who I'm looking at. And so because B is unsafe, that means as a blue splice, I can go to C. As a yellow splice, I can go to A because that's my default, remember? So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully I didn't confuse you too much. But that's really it for the splices and the long debuffs. So I think I have at least one long debuff to show you. Here's a long beta. So long beta is going to go to this little marker here, the 3 marker. They're going to stack with the blue splice. It's a triple stack, right? You want to come in the center because you want shields and heals, right? Those people who are mixing, they're coming over here. I don't want you to pay attention to all this stuff when you're actually doing the mechanic. I'm simply trying to explain stuff to you. Okay, and because I'm a long beta, I'm going to dodge that cleave and I'm going to head straight to my corner because I'm going to blow up, right? Boom. Everything blew up, and now the last final part of the mechanic has started. Now this can confuse people a lot really quickly, so I want to go ahead and just talk about this in depth really quick. Well, it's not gonna be quick at all, but yeah. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. So after, oh my god. So I actually have another POV that I wanted to show you. This was a non-mixing POV. So I have short gamma over here. So I'm going to go to my C marker and I can see everything that's going in front of me. So I'm already moving in to see if I have the correct element. Clearly I don't have a wind element, so I'm not going to be taking these towers. I can just chill. I can literally just do whatever I want. As a healer though, obviously I want to be shielding and healing and staying away from these two people who are going to be mixing. So I want to show you what they do. See, as you can see, they're going to the center, they're cheating north and south just slightly. They end up taking their markers or towers and they're dodging the cleave at the same time. Everyone else goes back to their positions. Those splice people are having to go back. So yellow splice ended up going to A because A was safe for him. The blue splice, however, because I did not mix, blue splice is not safe at C. So blue splice had to come over here to B, if that makes sense, okay? All right, so we just kind of sit there. And now the next part of the mechanic starts. Okay, let's not confuse this. I'm going to do it as simply as possible and tell you our brain dead, quote unquote, brain dead strats for this. Okay, look, now a lot of people have elements on their heads and it can get kind of confusing, but the only thing you have to worry about in this part is yourself. This whole fight, well, both High Concept 1 and High Concept 2 are individual debuff mechanics. You just do it the way that you kind of get assigned, and there's not much looking at other people unless you are a splice and you had to look at the prio. That's really it. Okay. All right. So I'm looking at myself right now. If I have the corresponding color to the towers here, by the way, these are 4 towers. They're all going to be the same color. So one person's going to take this one in the south, one person's going to take this, one person's going to take this, and one person's going to take this. Before we take these towers, we have to mix. Okay, so what's the prio for mixing? Seriously, this is so simple. You don't have to worry about anything. All you have to worry about is what debuff you previously had. And here I will explain the prio. Okay, so if you were a long debuff previously, a long D, if you were a long D, then you are going to be stacking right here. Okay, you're going to be stacking right here with another partner who also had a long debuff prior to this mechanic. So you just got to remember that, all right? Now, if you were not a long debuff, then you go north. That's it. By the way, that means if you were a splice or if you were a short debuff, then you would come here. So once again, if you are a long debuff previously, like, you know, long beta, long gamma, you would come right here. And you're going to meet with someone else because they have the same idea, right? They're also going to come over here. Oh my God, I can't spell D. They're also going to come over here. You're going to mix. And as you mix, remember, just it's the same thing we did with the first two towers. You're going to, while you mix, you're going to pre-position slightly north and slightly south so you can see who's going to take which of these two. This makes it so much easier to simply take these towers because I know a lot of people like kind of go in the center right here and they try to mix and there's all this like shit going on. There's a clusterfuck of people just not knowing who to mix with and it just gets so complicated. So to make this really, really easy, we just have long debuffs come over here in south, cheat north and south to take these respective towers, and the people who are not long debuffs, the only other two people who have the corresponding tower color, are going to come right here. They're going to cheat north and south so that they can see which towers they're going to take. They sit there. And at the same time, there's going to be a half map cleave. Let's say, for example, in this POV, I think he's going to cleave on the right, so that you just nudge to the left slightly of the circle. Now, also, you might have noticed that there are two elemental debuffs that do not have the corresponding color. You don't have to do anything. You're already done. This is just a debate. You don't do anything. The only people who are actually doing stuff are the people who have an element that corresponds with these four towers. Simple enough? All right, let's see it. So I'm going to go back so you guys can see what I had previously. So I did have a short gamma in this POV. So what I'm going to do, well, this is the first set of towers, by the way. So let's just kind of let this play out. I don't want to be skipping too much. Okay. So long debuffs go off. And now I'm going to go to my spot. So because I was not a long debuff, I'm coming over here. I'm pre-positioning myself slightly north. And I'm going to head to the right side of the circle to take this. So I'm going to show you that again. Because I was not a long debuff, right? I'm not long. I was short. So I'm coming over here north. Because I have a element that corresponds with the tower. I'm going to cheat slightly north or south, depending on what you want. You go, you sit there, you anchor. And that's the whole mechanic. After dodging the cleave, that is the entire mechanic. The only last thing you have to worry about is deconceptualize, which is actually a mechanic that will kill you if you are too close to someone else with another debuff. So just loosely spread out. That's really it. Does that make sense, hopefully? Okay, well, I think I have another POV, which you guys can check out. So let me see. Okay, so I do have another long debuff POV here. So as a long beta, I'm going to my marker here. Right? And so after this explodes, I'm looking at my elements. And because I have an element that corresponds with these towers, I'm going to go to one of these spots. And I have to know, I know this happens all at the same time. It's like, it's really quick. So I'm just trying to explain it as best as I can. But I'll pause it here. So here I have the element. I know it's the right element because it's purple. These towers are purple. They're not always going to be purple, by the way. But because I was a long debuff, I'm going to stack right here. And the other person who's a long debuff who is over here is also going to come stack with me. In this case, they were over there, so they're just going to come stack with me, and they have the corresponding element. And the people who were not long debuffs, the other two people, all they are going to do is come straight over here. So I want you guys to kind of just visualize it in your heads and just look at it. So as you can see, one of us slightly cheated north, and one of us slightly cheated south. Right, I'm right here and Sexy's over here, so that means he's gonna like pre-position himself for the tower that he's gonna take after we mix. By the way, if you touch these towers before mixing or without the correct element, you are gonna get a really nasty dot that's gonna kill you, so be very careful. All right, and that's pretty much it. Another thing that I didn't really explain is some of the healing aspects, which actually killed us a lot in this fight. You do need to pop your GCD shields. It's very important people get really low. They don't take that much damage, but at least if they're at least like shielded or like around, I would say 80-90% with some gear, they should be okay. What we do is we have the healer who doesn't have any elemental debuff come in the center over here because there are people mixing south and there are people mixing north. So this area is open for healers to just kind of just go crazy. So yeah, just dodge the half map cleave at the same time as this happens, and you should be pretty much good to go. That's basically it for high concept 1. And then deconceptualize, you just want to stand slightly spread out, and that's it. So yeah, if that makes sense to you guys, let me know. If it didn't make sense to you, make sure I know because I do want to know if I'm actually doing this stuff well enough. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think I can look at maybe one more POV. I know this video is getting slightly long, but I mean, I've already explained most of the mechanics, so if you guys want to see it, I guess I can just kind of show you more if you care. Okay, so in this POV, I think I get a splice. So we get to see what yellow splice does. Okay, yellow splice is right here. I'm going to my 2 marker. I'm just going to sit right here. Oh, I think we did see this a little earlier, but it's okay. We'll see the whole thing now since we understand everything. Okay, I'm going slightly in the middles because I want to shield and heal everyone properly. We're going to go ahead and dodge the cleave. It's coming on the right side. Here I am about to kill myself, but I'm looking at the enmity list, right? Because the enmity bar tells you where that snapshot is. So I got lucky, to be honest. And I have really good ping, but anyway. So yeah, looking at this again, people with 2 wind debuffs are mixing. They're going to go to their respective towers, watch the enmity bar. Right after the cast is gone, you can just beeline straight to your marker. I knew that A is going to be safe because the unmixed person didn't come here. So now I'm looking at my debuff. Clearly I have wind and I didn't have a long debuff. So I'm going to be mixing here. I cheat slightly north and I went north, dodging the cleave at the same time. And that's really it. I know there's a lot that you think goes on, that you might see that goes on, but really it's so simple. It's not even that complicated. I'm sure you guys can do it. Okay, well, with that said, hopefully that makes sense. And if it did, please leave me a like. If it didn't, comment below, let me know what I could do better. And I will go ahead and actually work on my high concept 2 video now because we have a new brain dead no flex strat that I want to talk about, which is really cool and helped us clear pretty easily. So yeah, aside from that, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.